He smirked before he even spoke. 13 years, and he still led with arrogance. Still single, right? His voice carried that same condescending lilt I once mistook for charm. "My son's a genius! Must have gotten it from me." I smiled. Controlled. Precise. "Is that so?" I said, gesturing toward the boy beside me. "Then you should meet mine." He turned, and for the first time in his life, Daniel Foster, my ex-husband, the man who called me broken, went silent. The color drained from his face, because my son, our son, looked exactly like him. 13 years ago I stood in the rain, clutching divorce papers that still smelled of printer ink. He told me I was defective, that he couldn't waste his future waiting for a woman who couldn't give him a child. I remember how calm I was when he said it. The restraint wasn't strength, it was disbelief. 1 week earlier, we had been laughing over burnt pancakes. 2 weeks before that, we were talking about names for a baby that never came. He didn't know I'd been to the doctor alone. He didn't know the problem was him. Low motility, a medical fact. But when he blamed me, I let him. I wanted to see how far he'd go. He went far. Far enough to leave. Far enough to marry his assistant 3 months later, pregnant, supposedly, with his child. That was the first time I realized silence was a weapon. When I found out I was pregnant 2 months after the divorce, I didn't tell him. It felt poetic, the universe correcting itself. I didn't owe him the truth, not after what he did. I raised Ethan in Tokyo, far from the gossip, far from his name. We lived quietly. I worked, saved, studied. I built the kind of stability he once said I'd never achieve without him. Every birthday, every milestone, I'd look at my son and see Daniel's face staring back. But the resemblance stopped there. Ethan had my patience, my calmness, my precision. He didn't inherit his father's cruelty. I kept the truth locked away, not out of fear, but for timing. Revenge, to me, wasn't about ruin, it was about revelation. A single, undeniable moment where a lie collapses under its own weight. Fate delivered that moment at an international tech conference in Tokyo last spring. I was there as a senior data strategist. He was the keynote speaker. His company had grown, bloated with success. He spoke about innovation, legacy, and, ironically, family values. Our eyes met across the hall. He hesitated, recognition dawning, then strutted over like the years hadn't happened. "I'll be damned," he said, scanning my face. "Still as beautiful as ever." His eyes flicked to my left hand. "No ring?" I didn't flinch. Some of us prefer peace over ownership. He laughed, missing the edge beneath my words. "You should have reached out. Maybe you'd have met my son. Brilliant kid, won a robotics award last month." I tilted my head. "Congratulations. Mine just won the National Science Olympiad." He smirked. "Oh yeah? Takes after you, huh?" And that was the moment I decided he'd meet Ethan. Not for him, he didn't deserve it, but for me. I wanted to see his confidence rot from the inside. 2 days later, I invited him to lunch. Ethan joined us, polite, composed. I told him the man was an old friend. Daniel was mid-sentence boasting about a project when Ethan looked up from his plate and Daniel froze. I watched the recognition ripple across his face like a slow poison. The eyes, the jawline, even the way Ethan stirred his drink. There was no denying it. "Who's the father?" he finally asked, voice thin. I held his gaze. "You tell me." He stared at Ethan again, his composure fracturing. "That's not possible." I smiled. "You said the same thing about me once." He blinked, trying to reconcile the past with the truth now staring him in the face. "Why didn't you—" "Tell you?" I interrupted softly. "Because you didn't ask. You made your decision before the facts. like every great businessman does, right? He leaned back, pale and trembling. I could see the headlines forming in his mind, the questions, the DNA test he'd never dare request. His genius son, the one he paraded online, might not even be his. And the one he abandoned, undeniably was. Ethan excused himself to get dessert. I waited until he was gone. "You always said you wanted a legacy," I whispered. "Well, there he is. You just don't get to claim him." I stood, smoothed my coat, and left him there, motionless, surrounded by the echoes of his own arrogance. That night I watched Ethan sleep. The city glowed through the curtains. I felt no regret, no bitterness, just the clean stillness of closure. He didn't know the years I'd carried that secret, the nights I nearly broke under the weight of it. But in the end, truth did what revenge rarely can. It restored something. Daniel would live with that look on his face forever, the realization that the only thing he ever truly wanted had been his all along. And I had learned to live without needing him to know it.